What is up, YouTube? It's Kingfisher745, and welcome to an all-new episode of Poor Man's PvP. This is the PvP series where I won't use any gold items, spec op items, or PvP rewards. I'll try to keep CP prices low and construct teams that anyone can use to win in PvP. Now before we begin, I do want to say, this episode is brought to you by Agent Seraph. So let's give him a super shout out and some serious applause.
Hip hip hooray! Hip hip hooray! Hip hip hooray!
Okay, so for today, we are using Hawkeye, and I do feel bad about coming back to him again, but allow me to explain a bit. First of all, he's a fantastic character that is basically given to us for free. But now it's not only the original Hawkeye, we have Kate Bishop Hawkeye as well. These two together make a serious assault team, and we have taken a look at them before, but I want to show you don't need any fancy gold weapons or gadgets to win. These two and farmable items are very capable all by themselves. If you don't believe me, well, I'm going to show you. But one more thing before we get started. Originally, I was going to make this a double episode where I would show you another team and complete setup. But I decided against doing that for two reasons. One, because I feel so strongly about this team that it can help anyone win, and so they deserve a full episode for themselves. And two, I figured we needed another episode next month, and so since all the hard work's already done for that second team, you can definitely expect that other episode in about 2 weeks. So no massive wait time before the next Poor Man's PvP. Now for this episode's build, we're going to have another version, just in case you're missing some of these items. Remember, there are always alternatives. So just because you don't have an item, or an ISO, doesn't mean that you can't make something work. Alright, so for our first setup, it'll kind of be the luxury version of our Poor Man's build. First of all, I realize Kate Bishop is 90 CP, but Hawkeye is 1, and then his Heroic Age Blaster alt I believe is 42. Then for Kate Bishop's E-ISO, we're using Savant, or the Protective E-ISO, and Surprising, aka Skull Thumper. If you don't have one of these or you prefer to use Relentless, then please feel free to do that. But next, moving on to our agent, he is wearing the last Generalist costume that was given to us, and we have the Inspiring E-ISO equipped on that. This gives our team morale boost. That one's fairly straightforward. Then moving on to Hawkeye. Since we're using his ult, we only can have one E-ISO. Don't worry, in our second setup we're going to use his default costume, and we won't even use this E-ISO. But if you do have it, it was free if you won it from his heroic battle in the Runaway Spec Ops. If not though, don't worry, it's not 100% necessary. It just helps out if you do have it. So anyways, I'm referring to the Knocking E-ISO. This grants Hawkeye knocked and loaded. But as far as our free agent setup, we're using the Stark Industries AR Resilient. This weapon places pinpoint target, which lasts for 4 rounds, and works perfectly with Kate Bishop and Hawkeye. It also has rapid fire, so a 50% chance to perform a follow-up attack while attacking a target with pinpoint target. The best part is this weapon can be found in Season 2, Chapter 8, Mission 1, on Challenge Mode. Then next, as a quick action gadget, we have the Laser Spotter. This gadget can be found, I believe, in many missions, or you could get it in the store for 29,440 silver and 12 shield points. Hopefully you have one of them lying around. The reason we're using it is so we can get 2 pinpoint targets on separate enemies rather quickly. So for example, we can use this quick action on one enemy and then fire our Stark Industries Resilient on another target. Next we have the Scroll of Angalob, which you can get in incursions. For now we're trying it out because of removal, but if you're unable to win this, don't worry. In our next build, we're going to switch it out. Once again, don't get hung up on any item, there's always alternatives. I'll tell you right now, most of you probably have much better items that you can use instead of these final two. Certainly if you have the weather control device or the cube, you should slot those in. Or even the Huygens Eye, for example. But in our last slot, we have the restored Mark 6 revolver. The only reason we have this is because it can preemptively counter range attacks against any ally. So yes, it may come in handy depending on who you face. Unfortunately, it doesn't counter melee. You can find this weapon in Season 2, Chapter 4, Mission 1, once again on challenge mode. So that's it, that's our first setup, and now we're finally going to see it in action. Now I know some of you were thinking Iron Fist is going to be a problem, but let me just say and show that he's less of a problem than you may think. Even he can't handle this team constantly attacking. And to begin, we're going to have our agent use the laser spotter, first on Null, and then we can use the Stark Resilient on the enemy agent. So right off the bat, two of the enemies have pinpoint target already. Now the Resilient can do a follow-up, and it apparently was going to because Iron Fist hits us with a combo breaker. Then he also stops a Hawkeye preemptive. Is it annoying? Yes. And he does cut down on our damage. But fortunately he cannot keep that up. When Hawkeye's turn finally arrives, we can use pinpoint target on the final enemy, and then we'll fire our level 1 at the enemy agent. Actually, a good thing occurs and Null steps up and protects. Kate joins in and the World Breaker is almost dead. Then apparently the enemy agent's going to use the signpost, followed by the Blackest Void. Now the major problem that we have now is that the enemy agent's going to protect even an area attack. So while we'd like to use Kate's level 6, which has Fatal Blow, and finish Null off, we know that that's not going to hit him. Because of this, we probably should have stuck to a single target attack, but I ended up deciding on using the Sonic Arrow instead. I figured at least we'll get some debuffs on the enemy agent, and well, we'll take care of Null later. So here goes a Sonic Arrow that has Distraction, Dizzy, Incapacitation, Shield Breaker, and even Stun. Admittedly, we added a few of those, namely Shield Breaker and the Stun. Those come courtesy of the Bursting A-ISO and the Skull Thumper or Surprising E-ISO. Anyways, Iron Fist does exactly what we expected, and since we have Disoriented, we're going to use Scroll of Angalob and remove that debuff. So here you see the debuff removal of course can come in handy, but if you have the Cube, Weather Control Device, or even maybe the Psychic Amplifier, then feel free to slot that instead. Then after this, we attack with the Resilient, and even though we get hit by Combo Breaker twice, we still fire the Stark Industries Resilient, and that one follow-up is enough to take down Null. Plus the other good news is now Iron Fist really shouldn't bother us, so we'll place pinpoint target on him once again, and then we'll fire a Trick Arrow on the enemy agent. That was overkill because he already was stunned, but at that point Hawkeye was already letting the arrow fly. Either way though, we almost knock out the agent, so Kate's going to finish him off. We'll do that with her Fatal Blow shot, her level 6, and then with her extra turn we're going to use the Kree Composite Soul Bow. This does nice damage and causes a follow-up from Hawkeye. Her Boomerang Arrow will finish it off, so that's going to be it for Iron Fist. And now moving on to our second opponents. I was really hoping to face this team for this episode, and we got them, Null and Kurth. Now the enemy agent hit ours with the Warbringer, and we can see he has the Neurotrope, so he is definitely decked out. It's kind of difficult to decide who to go for, but I really hate Null, so we put pinpoint target on him, and then go for the stun. If the enemy doesn't have Relentless, which they often don't, then the Trick Arrow can be a real lifesaver. And it does a decent amount of damage, plus gets a follow-up attack. Then on my agent's turn, we can either use the Laser Spotter, or we can use the Scroll of Angalob, and remove Intimidated. I really hate our attack being lowered, so we're going to use the scroll right now. Then after that, we're going to try to fire our Stark Resilient on Null. But unfortunately, we may be affected by Cower. That's certainly a problem that many teams that don't have a Hulk face. But one good thing is we do have quick actions, at least from Hawkeye and from our laser spotter. So that often can take the Cower for our team. You'll see what I mean later. But Kate does get a shot off, and we get a follow-up, plus an adamantium arrow which has fatal blow from Hawkeye. So Null is knocked out just like that. The debate is on as who to target, but after our pinpoint target takes a Cower, we're going to go ahead and fire at the enemy agent. At least Kate will do her follow-up and then she'll place pinpoint target on him. So there it is, and her shot hits. Kurth apparently is going for a range attack, and so we get a preemptive counter, but it does miss. So next we'll use pinpoint target on her, but okay, that takes care of Cower. And then we'll fire the Resilient on the enemy agent. So it's not going perfectly, but like I said, at least those quick actions are taking the Cower. This allows us to still attack. Now with Kate, we're going to use her level 9, so she fires a boomerang arrow, then hits for a decent amount of damage, plus Hawkeye will follow up. The great news is she gets another turn, so we fire again. Hawkeye joins in, and this time he keeps firing. That's going to be enough to take down the enemy agent and leave our full team against Kurth. And something tells me we may need it. But hey, we can try to stun her, and that will definitely make things easier. Plus we do get a follow-up attack, and then Kate's follow-up. Kurth also gets hit by a boomerang arrow, then a preemptive hit, and an adamantium preemptive, which of course has fatal blow. So that's how this match against the Worthy's going to end. Now I know what you're probably thinking, where's that other setup you were talking about? Well, here it is. The default Hawkeye costume. No more knocked and loaded, instead we're using Relentless and Hawkeye's Initiative. That EISO is going to allow him to go first in combat, usually. And you can find it in Season 2, Chapter 3, Mission 3. You can even use this EISO on his Blaster Heroic Age costume if you have it, and not knocked and loaded. By going first in combat, it can allow Hawkeye and Kate to get an early jump on an enemy, possibly even taking them down. So it is definitely a great option. Then instead of the scroll, we're using the Staff of Asclepios. This will give our team a heal if we need it, and you can find it in Season 2, Chapter 4, Mission 4. On challenge mode. So there you have it, a build for you if you don't have Hawkeye's alternate, if you weren't lucky enough to win the Knocking EISO, or the Scroll of Angalob. And for this one, obviously, we're taking on Quicksilver and Star-Lord. They also have Mystic Shroud, so that means no pinpoint target. Fortunately though, many people use a Blaster Star-Lord, and we're just going to straight up attack him, plus get our follow-up from Kate, which ultimately takes him down. So there you go, they have a fast team and we have a fast team. Next up, the enemy agent does use a fire tornado, so that's a little unfortunate, but we just won't use our quick actions. But then he goes for a ranged attack, and so we get a preemptive counter. Fortunately, the Mystic won't really shut us down. And with Kate, we're going to use her level 1 on the enemy agent. We'll get Hawkeye's follow-up, and with that, he is quite hurt. Now Quicksilver pulls out his AoE stun. We know our Hawkeye's immune to it because of Relentless. So that means on his turn, we can try to finish off the enemy agent. We somehow miss, but Kate doesn't. And then with Kate, we're going to try to use the Putty Arrow, which can cause Immobilized. That will make Quicksilver unable to use melee abilities, and that will obviously shut him down, if it works. typically this does work, and I've used it in the past against Quicksilver, and all he does is recharge on his turn. In this case, it apparently didn't. So he's going to get 2 more attacks, and then we'll finish him off. We'll go ahead and use Pinpoint Target, then our Trick Arrow, and we do get a follow-up attack from Hawkeye before Kate even gets hers, and that's the end of the match. So there it is, a very powerful team that anyone can use to win. And that's going to bring us to the end of this episode. I really enjoyed making it for you, and I hope you enjoyed watching it. Like I said, there will be another episode coming in July. Make sure to join the Kingfisher Army or Navy or School, whatever you prefer to call it. And how do you do that? Well, simply hit that subscribe button. Also, if you can, please leave a like and a comment. And until next time, good luck and take care.